You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
Good Monday morning and welcome in to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Morning Boys with Ryan Hickey exclusively right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We appreciate you tuning in. We hopefully, wherever you are, had a great, relaxing, enjoyable weekend. We appreciate you starting your week with us right here on the Morning Boys on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I was off on Thursday. And definitely excited to be back. There's a lot of sports to talk to. It's nice to be on the beach, nice to celebrate a nice little birthday with my family for my dad. Again, for the third time, because I know he loves the attention. Happy birthday, Dad. I know, he is one of those who, it's not a birthday day, it's not a birthday week, it's a birthday month. We call it the national holiday in my family. And so we spent the last few days on the beach. So again, one last time, happy birthday to him, which is why I was not on the show on Thursday, but very, very excited to be back here and talk a lot of sports with you because as tradition, as it always happens, anytime we're off on the show, a lot goes on, a lot happens, and that is no different this week. So a lot to get into, a lot of basketball talk to get into, but very excited to be here with you. And also some very exciting show news as well going forward, as pretty soon, very soon, within the next week or so, we will have a new branding right here in the morning. It will go. It won't be the Morning Boys anymore. It will be the Ryan Hickey Show. Excuse me. So very excited for that name change. Hopefully this time next week we'll have everything set to go and we will debut and put out there the new show name, the new identity. Nothing will change outside of just the name and just the marquee. But very excited about that for sure. Just as a heads up. So look out for that. Big things coming here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. But like I said, we're out, and of course what happens, a lot goes on in the sports world, and we have a lot to get to between now and 11 a.m. on the East Coast. 9:20. Obviously, the last time we were on the show was last Monday, and that was just on the precipice right before the Big Ten inevitably canceled their fall football season. And the Pac-12 followed suit as well just right after that. So 2 of the 5 power conferences have already announced they're not playing football, not playing any fall sports in a few months here in 2020, and then they'll shoot for a spring 2021 football season. One prominent head coach already put out his plan for what a spring football season will look like. We'll tell you what that is, and if it's feasible or not at 9:20, 9:40. We have made it. We've had the 8 seeding games in the NBA. I've talked about on the show. Wasn't into it as maybe as others. It felt like more exhibition, more preseason games than anything else. A lot of teams took it that way as well. We saw a lot of opportunities to move up in the seeding, to get quote-unquote home court, and get one of those first 4 seeds, and a lot of teams just blatantly disregarded that. And so now finally we have games that actually matter. Intensity will be there, and we have playoffs starting today. A little matinee playoffs starting with the Jazz and the Nuggets. So we'll give you Eastern Conference predictions, Western Conference predictions, anyone on upset alert, the most intriguing matchup of the first round. I think we'll have some interesting discussions for sure. I'm definitely excited to get the playoffs going. 2020 Apocalypse, we are nearing the end. This is it. Today and Thursday, we have the third place game today, Cody versus Lauren, 2 versus 5, to get that third place prize, get that crown. And on Thursday, we will crown the first and hopefully only 2020 Apocalypse champion, the 1-seed Joe Pidell, perfect in the Final Four against his matchup against Lauren. Will go against a 3-seed Sarah Chonkali. Titan versus Titan. Goliath versus Goliath. We're going to have a great matchup on Thursday and should have a lot of fun getting there as well today in the third place matchup with Cody and Lawrence. So do that, as always, at 10:20 and 10:40. Alex Smith, if you forgot about him, still the Washington quarterback, and he was cleared for football activity over the weekend. And I want to discuss not only his injury comeback, because it's just been absolutely incredible what he's been able to do just to get to this point, just to be able to basically put a helmet on and throw a football in practice officially. But I'm curious, is this the best comeback from injury? Even if he doesn't play another snap, even if he doesn't get into another game throughout the rest of his career, is this the best comeback we've ever seen from injury in sports history? I have a few that maybe could take the cake. We'll discuss, again, at 10:40. But I'll have to get your thoughts, too. Obviously, we see, unfortunately, a lot of gruesome injuries in sports. Some players come back, some don't. Alex Smith had one of the most gruesome, one of the most rigorous and intense rehabs we'll ever see. Almost losing his life, almost losing his leg. So I'm curious, is there a comeback in your mind for where a player came back from injury and came back and somehow was overcome all the odds and be back on the field? I'm curious to get your thoughts because Alex Smith, he's right up there, if not number one. Again, we have a few injuries to discuss, but I do want to end the show and get your thoughts, whether it's on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, on Twitter, WWSRN_radio. What is the best comeback from sports you've ever seen? We'll get your thoughts throughout the show, and then we'll finish the show talking about that as well. But like I said, really the main story here, and it started last week with the rumblings and rumors and reporting that the Big Ten was really on edge about playing football this fall. They were really leaning towards canceling the season. A week prior, they released a schedule for 2020 and started practicing. And then so obviously by the time we got on the air on Monday, it was rumors, but for the most part, all the reporters that have really had their ear to the ground have really been all over the story. We're basically saying it's a done deal. Now it's more when than if. And then obviously we got the news on Wednesday that the Big Ten season is canceled. A few hours later, the Pac-12 followed suit as well. So just like that, 2 of the 5 power conferences will not be playing football, but the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 are trying to play. Now the story kind of continues because yesterday, Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields, a guy who's going to be a top draft pick in this upcoming 2021 draft, a guy who was already close to leading Ohio State to the title game, had that great game in Clemson. Him and Trevor Lawrence are right up there for the Heisman, right up there for the draft. So in theory, Justin Fields has really nothing to gain outside of trying to win for Ohio State in coming back and playing a season in the fall in 2020. But yeah, besides that, he put out a petition yesterday to have their Big Ten reinstate the season and really take back what they did and let players, the players on the field, the players in the Big Ten, make their own decisions of whether they want to play or not. And this petition already, he just put it out yesterday, so not even 24 hours old, has over 216,000 signatures. Now, this is from anyone. Anyone could sign this. This is a public petition. So I could sign it, you could sign it, your parents could sign it, your friends could sign it. If you want, your dog could sign it. Over 216,000 petitions to have the Big Ten reinstate the fall 2020 season. And on top of that, so not only you have Justin Fields putting this petition out, trying to get the Big Ten to reverse their decision in playing football in the fall, you have parents for players at Iowa, at Penn State, at Nebraska, at Ohio State, wrote open letters to the Big Ten basically stating that they want their players, they want their own kids to be able to make the decision whether they want to play or not, and basically leave the choice up to the kids, not the university presidents, not the Big Ten commissioner, not the conference as a whole. So I'm curious because now we have this one side where the players are pushing their hardest, and still, despite the fact that the decision's already been made that the Big Ten's not playing, you have players now rallying together, you have parents rallying together, try to make the decision be allowed to be in the hands of the players. Put a season on, and if enough players want to play, we'll have a season. If not, obviously you don't have enough to field the team, we won't play. But put the decision in the hands of the players and the parents. Now, on the other hand, you have the NCAA Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Brian Hainline, who's been all over this since the start, has been talking publicly, laying out the challenges that college football specifically placed, the challenges placed on college football because of the unique campus life, because they're not paid professionals. He's been the one advising and basically laying out the guidelines and the game plan. If college football was to be played, here's how it could do. So he appeared on CNN very late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, depending on where you are in the country. And let's just say he was very, very pessimistic, not just on football, but sports overall getting played in this country. He was quoted as saying on CNN, quote, "Right now, if testing in the U.S. stays the way it is, there's no way we could go forward with sports." They didn't say football, he said sports. So right now, if testing if testing in the U.S. stays the way it is, there is no way we can go forward with sports. Later on, he was quoted as saying, "We're not in a place today where we can safely play sports," end quote. So you have the doctor, the chief medical officer for the NCAA, openly campaigning that no sports should be played. He's advising the NCAA, he's advising conferences, listen, this is the data we have. I don't think it's safe to play sports. The testing is not there. We can't really keep our athletes safe. We're not in a position as a country. Forget colleges. We are not in a position as an overall country where we can play sports safely. Now, with that said, so far, like I said, the 3 Power 5 conferences, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, 3 other conferences, the AAC, Sunbelt, and Conference USA, are going to play football this year, or at least going to try. So right now, 6 conferences out of the 10 are still in line, set, and getting ready to play football this fall. So this is the question I want to ask. This is the topic I kind of want to get into here because we have dueling sides here, right? The doctors are saying one thing, the players and the parents are saying another thing. So I'm curious your thoughts. Should the players and the parents, be allowed to make their own decision when it comes to playing football this fall, or really sports in general when it comes to playing this fall? Like I said, Justin Fields on one end, advocating, let the players make the choice. Here are all the guidelines, and if players feel safe, if they trust their school, if they trust the protocols, they let them play. On the other hand, you have Dr. Brian Hainline saying we are nowhere near close in this country to being able to put sports on safely. So I'm curious, in your mind, in your thoughts, in your opinion, should players be allowed to make their own decision in the fall? Because to me, where I fall is yes. I would allow the players, allow the parents to be the ones to make the decision when it comes to whether they feel safe enough to play or not, whether they want to play or not. And here's a few reasons why. One, as you saw throughout the 5 months, now it's been very uneven, it's been very disorganized. But for the most part, every school, every conference has created their own plan for testing and protocols. So in theory, if the protocols are laid out, if the testing plan laid out, which is public, all these conferences laid out what their plan is going to be, laid out how the school is going to keep these players safe. And the players don't feel safe. They can opt out or they can speak up. And speaking of speaking up, players have been shy. And that's one of the best things about this new player movement, player empowerment movement we've seen really since the pandemic started and the players realize the power they have. If you speak up, if you don't like something that's going on, whether it's within the football team, whether it's within the university, you speaking up will get something done. These college football players, with how much money they bring in, how much money they generate for the university, have a lot of power. Because guess what? If they don't want to play, there's a lot of money, and there's a lot of different areas within the school that will suffer if football isn't played. So we've seen it all over the country. It started with UCLA a few months ago. They put out and they wrote an open letter that the Los Angeles Times got a hold of, basically laying out what they wanted the medical procedures to be. They wanted third parties in there. They wanted doctors in there that weren't associated with UCLA that would give an unbiased opinion. So the UCLA players spoke out and UCLA adjusted their protocols. Most recently, just this last week, we saw Florida State wide receiver Warren Thompson. Florida State has started practice. They have gotten in the moment. Again, the Florida State's in the ACC. So they're gearing up to play a college football season this fall. They've had practices. They've had the protocols put in place. And Warren Thompson, wide receiver, spoke up. He felt that the coaches were lying to him. They weren't truthful. And they were pressuring kids to basically not reveal if they were positive or not. They couldn't afford to have players go into quarantine or basically be away from the team for 10 days or 2 weeks because it would cost them too much time in trying to get ready for the season. So he spoke up, and he didn't feel safe about how the coaches at Florida State were handling the protocols and the testing and really the transparency since really resuming and ratcheting up training camp. So players will speak up. They won't be shy to let you know what's going on. If something's not right, they won't be afraid to voice their opinion. So now that they have that power, now they have the option to opt out if they don't feel safe, why not make them let the decision? And they are the ones, after all, that are taking the risk. This is what drives me kind of insane with college sports overall, is that the players on the field, whether it's wanting to play during a pandemic, whether it's really any aspect of college sports, the players consulted, the ones whose lives will be affected, whether it's a new rule within the game, whether it's some sort of protocols outside of the field for really a variety of reasons within college sports. The athletes are really the last ones consulted, if ever consulted, and the ones that are impacted the most are almost never talked to. So shouldn't, before this decision was made, shouldn't the players have been consulted, talked to, get given their thoughts of if they feel safe or not before the season is taken right out from under them? And here's, to me, a good example of why I do feel better about college football starting. You had Ohio State, their center, Josh Myers. He was talking to ESPN about Justin Fields putting out this petition and his thoughts of whether the Big Ten should play or not. And he said that he feels safer playing than not playing because, if the protocols are in place, the players are getting tested twice a week. Twice a week, you're getting tested every week to see if you have it. The facilities, the weight room, the practice facility, the cafeteria that they eat, they're constantly being cleaned. They're constantly being sanitized. And not to mention, when you're on a team, when you're working for something, there's that pressure from teammates and coaches to do the right thing, to not go to a party, to not be that guy, to do the wrong thing, venture out, and possibly put the entire team and maybe even the season at risk for that school. There is a pressure there where if you take that away, if there's no season, if they're trying for the spring or they just punt to fall 2021, there's really no responsibility, in theory, to do the right thing. There's no incentive to do the right thing. There's no incentive not to go to the party, not to go to a place where, there's a lot of kids hanging out without masks or a lot of social distancing going on. But I truly believe if you have a season to look forward to, if you're playing, it incentivizes you to do the right thing. And I'll take it one step further. Being a Penn State alum, I know at least how it works on campus and how, at least we're talking about dorm life, we're talking about players kind of being on their own. At Penn State, at least, they're almost in a quasi-bubble. And here's what I mean by that. There are certain areas on campus where only athletes stay. There's one area by the football building where it's mostly basketball and football. All townhouses over there, but really for the most part, only athletes stay there. And for those athletes not on campus, those football players specifically that aren't on campus, they stay a place that is about 5 minutes down the road away from campus. And if you've been in college, if you even know that, I know 5 minutes doesn't sound that far away, but when you're in an area and you're in a small town, essentially, where everything is walkable, a 5-minute drive is basically another country away. These apartment buildings, these complexes where the football players specifically stayed, no one goes to, I promise you. No one is taking a 5-minute Uber or 5-minute drive to go to a party at some of these apartment buildings that are way, way, way off campus. All the bars are downtown. All the house parties, all the fraternities are all downtown. No one, I promise you, is going way out of their way to go 5 minutes away. It is another country, another continent, it feels like. So these players are already in a quasi-bubble, and I'm sure Penn State's not the only school and university where that setup is similar. A lot of football players live with each other. A lot of them live in apartment buildings off campus. So if you at least give them a reason, which is a football season, to take it seriously, to do the right thing, and like I said, I do think that social pressure of not being the guy on the team to let everyone down, put everyone at risk, I think that really incentivizes players to do the right thing. So not only, as you hear, Ohio State player basically says he feels safer if the season's played. You have opt-outs. You could speak up if you feel that the school isn't taken it seriously. Not to mention, let's not, let's talk about money here, because this is a business after all. We're talking about possible careers potentially ending before they even start if you don't play in the fall. And here's a great, great, great example. Joe Burrow, the number one pick overall by the Cincinnati Bengals, the Heisman winner, the man who led LSU to a 15-0 season last year. If this happened last year, right, if this pandemic happened in 2019 instead of 2020, and college football wasn't played in 2019, you know what Joe Burrow isn't right now? He's not a number one pick. He's probably not even drafted. His stock was so low coming into his last year at LSU that he was at best a late round pick. And he tweeted himself, if this happened last year, if this happened in 2019, before he took the world by storm, before he took over the college football world and had the best season statistically from a quarterback we've ever seen, he said he's probably looking for another job. That LSU season never happens. The number one pick never happens. And he's probably looking wherever, insurance, as a whatever he wants to do. I don't know what he wants to do. But he's looking for a real job in a different line of work that's not the NFL. So there are plenty of careers, and there are plenty of players similar to Joe Burrow. So if they don't play this fall, your career is over before it started. So at least to me, my frustration, like I said before, the decision often about college athletes and their future is often made without their input, without their consultation. I mean, one of the parents who wrote the open letter I mentioned, Nebraska, their parents are more upset because their players were not consulted on the decision to play or not. And there's really no reasons given not playing. And they asked the question that I asked, what changed from August 5th to about August 11th? The virus didn't change. No outbreaks really changed. But what did? Because you put the schedule out, you allow practices to start. If you were really that concerned that a season was in peril, you wouldn't put the schedule out, you wouldn't start practices. So at least to me, I would, and I wish and I hope, that instead of presidents making the decision, instead of athletic directors and chancellors, let the players, the ones on the field, the ones taking the risk, make the decision of whether to play or not. Let them be the ones to say, you know what, I feel safe, I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to try for it. Or you know what, I don't feel safe, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to back away. We've seen already a ton of good players back out and opt out. Kennedy Brooks, a great running back, for Oklahoma, was the latest big-name player to opt out. He did that yesterday as Oklahoma gears up as they are in the Big 12 to play. So there's social pressure to make sure the coaches and the players are doing the right thing. You can opt out if you want. But for me, I would like to see the kids make the decision. I would like to see the players on the field be the ones to decide their future or not presidents, not chancellors, not athletic directors. So I'm curious your thoughts. Should college football players, like Justin Fields is advocating for and plenty of others, should they be allowed to make their own decision on playing this year? And with that said, if so, Justin Fields is asking the Big Ten to reinstate the season. Should the Big Ten reconsider their decision and maybe actually play this year? I think yes. I really do. And if enough players want to play, you can have a season. Have a season. Because like I said, too many times, athletes' decisions are made for them in college without their input, without their consultation, without their opinion. Let the players, the ones on the field taking the risk, the parents who could allow their players to, or their sons, to take the risk or not, let them be part of the decision making. Don't take it away from them before they don't even have a chance to think about it or say yes. So I'm curious your thoughts. Are you with Justin Fields? Should college football players be allowed to make their own decision when it comes to playing football in the fall in 2020? Let's get your thoughts. Worldwide Sports Network on Facebook. Comment on the live video. We'll read that there. Twitter, WWSRN_radio. You want to shoot us a tweet? Should college football players be allowed to make their own decision? And the Big Ten, because Justin Fields is asking for it. Over 216,000 signatures agreeing with him. Should the Big Ten reverse their decision and reinstate the 2020 football season, at least try to have a season this fall? So get your thoughts. Let me know. Reach out, Facebook, Twitter. We'll get your thoughts. And when we come back also, a prominent Big Ten coach already set his eyes on the spring of 2021. He laid out a plan, on what a fall season would look like. And, spoiler, it does have an impact on fall 2021. We'll tell you what the plan is, if it's feasible or not, when the Morning Boys and Ryan Hickey return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And we are back here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network on this Monday morning. Hopefully, wherever you are, had a great weekend. Exciting, relaxing, safe, of course. We do appreciate you starting your week right here with us on the Morning Boys and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. So we are talking a lot of college football, really picking up where we left off. A ton of college football talk the last time we were on the air a week ago today. And that was because we were on the heels, on the precipice of first the Big Ten and then the Pac-12 canceling their seasons. I said Wednesday, I apologize. It was last Tuesday. So almost, we were a little less than a week from that decision. And now really the tide is still turning. These players are still fighting to have a season. Justin Fields, standout superstar quarterback at Ohio State, put a petition out on social media yesterday. Let me just pull it up. Let me get the latest numbers here. He put out a petition asking the Big Ten to reinstate their decision to and allow a season to be played this fall. And he said that he wants the players deserve to be the ones to make the decision whether they want to play or not. This petition, in less than 24 hours, he tweeted it yesterday, 22 hours ago. It has 226,000 signatures backing up Justin Fields, saying they want to play, let the kids play essentially, and let the players themselves be the ones to make the decision. Let the parents themselves be allowed to make the decision of whether they want their kids to play or not this fall. So I'm curious your thoughts. Should the college football players themselves, the families, be the ones to make their own decision on whether they want to play or not? Or do you agree with the conferences? Should the conferences, should the doctors be the ones to say, you know what, we're going to save the kids for themselves. We're not going to allow them to play. We're just going to wait until hopefully this virus is controlled, whether it's the spring or it's the fall of 2021. You have Dr. Brian Hainline, the chief NCAA medical officer, was on CNN on Saturday night, early Sunday morning, basically saying, with where we are with testing and everything else in this country, we're in no position to have sports. So he's trying to put pressure on the conferences that are still trying to play. The Big 12, the SEC, the ACC, trying to pressure them to not play, to cancel their own seasons. But now you have players and you have parents from Nebraska, Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State writing letters, basically saying they want the decision to be put in the hands of their kids, of the players themselves, the ones taking the risk. They want them to be the one to say whether they should play or not. So I'm curious your thoughts. Should college football players be allowed to make their own decision on where they want to play this year? And should the Big Ten listen to Justin Fields, reverse their decision, and reinstate in 2020 college football season, at least for the Big Ten? Get your thoughts on Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio. I stand with Justin Fields. I stand with the parents in Nebraska and Iowa and Penn State and Ohio State. I think it should be left up to the kids. I think they should be the ones to make the ultimate call, since they are the ones taking the risk. If they feel safe, if they feel confident in the school's testing and protocols, I personally think they should be the ones allowed to make the ultimate decision of whether they want to play or not this fall. So I'll love to hear your thoughts. Again, Facebook, Worldwide Sports Radio Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio. You want to tweet me personally, Ryan_Hickey, and the number 3. So let's move forward here, because if the Big Ten does not reinstate their 2020 fall football season, if they don't listen to Justin Fields, if they hear what the parents are saying from these universities but still back the scientists, back the doctors, and say we just can't do it in fall of 2020, we're going to hopefully try for a spring 2021 season. There's already one football coach out there in the Big Ten that put his plan for how he wants to see a possible spring football season, and that's Jeff Brom at Purdue. He heard the news. He obviously was devastated like a lot of the other coaches, but he already started thinking, he had that brain turning, and he said, how can we make a spring season work? So here's his plan. He put it out last year. I want to read it to you and get your thoughts on whether spring football is feasible. So Jeff Brom's plan is to have 8 games. The season would start February 27th. So the last week of February, the regular season would conclude April 17th, and you have the postseason finished by May 15th. So I'm assuming he would have a playoff system. I'm not sure how many bowls he would want to have, but you figure out, there's some sort of postseason done by May 15th. So essentially the season starts February 27th, ends May 15th. So that's what, 3 months? February, March, April, May. 3-month season. Then not only, so you take it a step further. So February 27th to May 15th. Then the fall 21 season, would be delayed 1 month. So he would start the fall 2021 season on October 2nd. There's only 10 games. So Jeff Brom, 8 games starts February 27th, push the fall 2021 season back to October, and have a 10-game long 2021 regular season. Now, I like Jeff Brom. I think he's a great coach at Purdue. I think he's a great fit for Purdue. I love his intensity. I love his out-of-the-box and creativity thinking when it comes to trying to make a spring football season work. And I like that he already is not dwelling on the season being canceled. He's already looking forward and trying to ensure that some sort of season is played this calendar year. But Jeff, well, I love you. Again, I love the creativity. I love the go-getting, being a go-getter. I don't think this plan is feasible for a few reasons, and here's why. Number one, we heard the main concern about a spring season. I would agree, player safety. All right, so now if you have Jeff Brom's plan, you're going to play 8 games in the spring, 10 games in the fall, at least for the teams that don't make the postseason, don't even make a bowl. They'll be playing 18 games in a 10-month span, February to November. And while sure you can cite spring practice, an 8-game season could mimic what spring football is like. Regular season football in the spring and spring practice is 2 totally different things. They're not even comparable. Games are just flat out more intense. Games are more physical. And you think about it, spring practice, part of the spring practice, part of it, why it's there, so you have a lot of young players, a lot of players that maybe now were behind in the depth chart, 2nd, 3rd, 4th string. That now, because of graduation, because of players going early, because of injuries, they are going to have legitimate time coming up this fall. It's reps for them to show them what they have, give the coaches a glimpse of really what the depth and the talent they have at the lower positions. It's sort of being a showing out for the rest of the roster. So more than ever, spring football, you split a lot of reps. It's not the first team running 100 plays every practice. Spring practice is only 14, 15 practices. And the spring game, no big player ever plays. Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence isn't suiting up in the spring game in April. So a spring football season is not anything close to what spring football is normally like. So I hate that comparison. Player safety is a real concern. And again, 18 games in a 10-month span for the worst teams. Not counting conference championships, not counting playoff, not counting bowls. Minimum 18 games in a 10-month season. To me, that's too much. Player safety should be a real concern. That's too many games in a short amount of time for a sport that's extremely physical, and extremely dangerous. Not to mention, let's just talk from a strictly logistical perspective, right? Let's not lose sight of the fact that the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC are still planning on playing this fall. So what's going to happen next fall when Jeff Brohm's plan is to, again, delay the season for the Big Ten by a month? So instead of starting Labor Day weekend in 2021, he wants to start October 2nd and only play 10 games. Well, what's going to happen next year if the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12 start their season, let's say they finish, or maybe don't finish, but get close enough to where, you know what, the season couldn't get completed, but they played enough games, they're not going to try in the fall. They only play, let's say, 8 or 9 games, and they're just going to wait for the fall of 2021 to kind of get a full season back. Well, I can promise you this. The ACC, the SEC, the Big 12 is not delaying their season a month, and they are not losing or chopping 2 games off their schedule. So what's going to happen with the Big 10 basically playing their own season for the second straight year? It's going to be 2 straight years now. The Big 10 is going to be on their own. Well, everyone, other conferences do their own thing. So to me, looking at 2020 already being very disjointed, if any teams play, right now you have 3 of the 5 main power conferences trying to play. It's disjointed whether the Pac-12 tries to do a spring, whether the Big Ten tries to do a spring. The fall's already lost. I don't want fall of 2021 also being disjointed. I don't. I'm sorry. I'd rather minimize the amount of change, minimize the impacts of the coronavirus to this year and this year alone. So sure, while maybe a lot of seniors would really benefit from a spring season, maybe great for guys to get one last run in that uniform. By doing so, you already impact the 2021 fall season, and for me, that should not be touched. That season is more important than ever because schools have to make up a lot of money that's already lost. So I hate the idea of delaying the season a month, playing 2 less games than everyone else. Not to mention, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the non-conference games. You have great matchups. You have Penn State, Auburn next year. That's lost if you just delay the season into October and only play 10 games. So I don't like having 2020 disjointed. I don't want to see 2021 be chaotic, be a mess, be disjointed by having the Big Ten play 10 games, start a month later, but you have the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, and who knows, if the Pac-12 doesn't play spring football and they just want to wait till the fall, they're not waiting a month either. So you could have 4 of the 5 power conferences playing a normal fall schedule in 2021, and the Big Ten will be delayed by a month playing less games. Not to mention, is a spring season even worth it? There's no championship to play for. Like I said, right now, if things stay the way they are, the Big Ten is the only conference so far, maybe the Pac-12, to play spring football. So even let's just say the Pac-12 does play spring football. Is it worth messing up, delaying, and really creating chaos for a 2021 fall schedule if there's no championship to play for? You're not going to be a national champion. And the only other team you could play in a bowl game maybe is a Pac-12 team. That season no one's going to recognize. And it's really, again, only going to hurt you more than it helps you. So that's a major flaw for me in this plan that Jeff Brohm laid out. And finally, my last plan here, or my last thought, I should say, of the reason why I don't like Jeff Brohm's 8-game spring college football plan. It starts in February, ends in May. Is that, look, let's just be honest here. Let's be real. These conferences, the NCAA, had 5 months from March to August to look at the landscape of the country, develop plans, and more plans to say, here's how we can get it done. If this plan doesn't work, we'll go to this plan, then we'll go to this plan. We'll try different strategies to make sure we get a fall football season in. And what happened? What happened? We watched in front of our eyes. Chaos ensued. One conference is doing this. Another conference is doing this. These doctors are telling the conferences to do this. Other doctors are telling the conferences, oh, you're okay, you could play. These doctors are saying, oh, you can't play. It's 5 conferences and really all of college football, like chickens with their head cut off, running all over the place. Information is different. Plans are different. The Big Ten's announcing conference-only season right before they say, oh, we're not going to do anything. Drastic boom. And then they announce make an announcement about their season and their schedule that throws everyone else off, shocks everyone else. So in short, it's been a mess. It's been chaotic, and really no one had a plan. No one had a plan. So looking at that, seeing just how chaotic getting to this point was, I don't want another distraction that could possibly, again, throw off the fall 2021 season. They had 5 months to get on the same page to put a unified message out, or at least try together to have a plan to get a season in. They couldn't do it. So I'll be honest, I don't trust, now that schools are back in session, now there's other sports to worry about, there's a lot of distractions going on. I don't want to add another one by putting spring football and making it their focus. I rather wish that they just forget spring football, focus on fall 2021, and make sure and try your hardest that it is close to normal. 12 games, you have all the non-conference games we're used to, and try to make it college football as we, the fans, love it. For fall 2021, make that the priority. Make that the focus. 2021 is already lost. Whether teams play or not, whether we have any football, even if 3 of the 5 Power 5 conferences play, it's still not the same. Let's just contain this mess, this disaster, to 2020. I don't want to see fall of 2021 affected. I really don't. That's my main motivation. If you're telling me right now, if you just punt on 2020, forget the spring football idea, and just get ready and gear up for a fall 2021 season. In doing so, there's enough testing, there's enough protocols, there's enough ideas out there to make sure and basically come to the closest possible form and version of college football as you know it. I'm in. I'm really in. So I don't want distractions. I don't want other things to get in the way of possibly having a smooth fall 2021 season. So that's why, again, Jeff Brohm, I appreciate the creativity. I really do. You know, this plan was announced within days of the conference canceling their season. So to be able to bounce back, get over it that quickly, and already start thinking ahead, I like a lot. But to be honest, I don't think it's feasible. I really don't. So I'm curious to your thoughts. Would you be into a spring college football season? We've seen interest. The XFL, the AAF, there was interest, there was juice there. And I'm sure, again, with a lot of these schools, especially in the Big Ten, with massive alumni fan bases, if season was played, they'd be into it. There would be ratings for sure. But I'm curious from a logistical perspective, just from, if there's no championship interest perspective, would you be into it? I personally would not. Like I said, I just have too many reasons, too many concerns that I don't think it would be worth it. And I think it would be a bigger headache, to be honest, than it would be a source of joy, a source of inspiration, let's say, to try to ease the sting that was with the announcement of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten canceling their football season. So I'm curious your thoughts. You as the fan, would you bring to a spring college football season in 2021? Love to get your thoughts, whether it's Facebook, Worldwide Sports Network, Twitter, WWSRN_radio. We'll get your thoughts. We'll listen to them. We'll read them out loud. When we come back, we made it. The NBA playoffs are about to begin today. 2 months of wall-to-wall wall-to-wall basketball action that is intense, that is meaningful. We'll preview the Eastern Conference. Is anyone an upset alert in the Eastern Conference? We'll do that when the Morning Boys Ryan Hickey return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And we welcome you back to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It is the Morning Boys with Ryan Hickey right here with you on this Monday morning, talking a lot of college football. Justin Fields puts out a petition wanting the Big Ten to reinstate the 2020 season and basically allow the players themselves to make the decision of whether they want to play or not this year. You have parents of players at different Big Ten universities putting out and writing letters saying that they want the players to be the ones to decide. I support them on that 100%. I'd like to see the Big Ten reinstate their season and allow the players themselves to make the decision whether they feel safe enough to play or not. Personally, I'd like the decision to be made in the hands of the players. And then if not, if that doesn't happen, if the Big Ten continues and basically stays course of where they're at right now, Jeff Brohm put out a 2021 spring football plan. 8 games, starts in late February, ends in mid-May. And not only would it be 8 games in the spring, it would also affect the next fall season, delaying it a month and only playing 10 games. So for me, because the ACC, because the SEC, because the Big 12 are pushing forward, they're trying to play. I don't want to see the fall 2021 season upset by everyone else playing on time, the Big Ten starting a month later, having scheduling mishaps happen again by non-conference games being canceled. I just want fall 2021. I think I could speak for a lot of people on this. I want fall 2021 to be as normal as possible. 12 games, non-conference, conference games, the whole schedule, hopefully, fingers crossed, fans in the stands. So for me, at least, I would try to gear up for as much as that as possible. And having a fall season, at least if they follow Jeff Brom's plan, would delay that a month and only play 10 games. So that's why I'm not on board. I'd rather keep fall 2021 the same as possible. Now, one aspect we didn't get into, and do want to get into here in upcoming shows, because I think it's a topic we really got to dive into a lot. And this is looking at it from the NFL perspective. Because Roxana Renata Ashley Bella, mouthful. But Roxana, we appreciate you listening. She writes it on Facebook, what about the NFL draft? How will that mess it up? Now, that's really interesting, because there's a lot of different areas to look at. If there is spring football by the Big Ten, I think we've seen this. The NFL, first of all, we'll look at it from the draft perspective. The NFL is business as usual. Now, I think they will delay if there's enough momentum for a spring season to where, let's just say it's not the Big Ten. Let's just say the Pac-12 plays, and maybe even a few other conferences end up canceling their season. They want to play some sort of spring season. I think the NFL would delay their draft. It would be in late April. I think they would push it maybe to June. Now, the issue is you can't delay too much more than that. You got to have players and rookies get to the facility. So I don't think the NFL would delay their draft much longer than sometime in June. So that gives basically college football a 2-month window. Now, even with that said, even if they do delay the draft to allow for a spring season, allow for the scouts to actually maybe watch players they had questions about actually play some sort of football, I do question how many players that are draft eligible that have NFL draft aspirations, I wonder how many would actually play in the spring. So I truly think part of the other issue that I didn't touch on, but I think this is a good point here by Roxana, asking this question about the NFL draft. I think a lot of players will not take the risk. It is safer to maybe just work out for the draft, train, and even if you don't get drafted, you go undrafted, you sign with the team, your body is in a better position because you trained, you got healthy, you got stronger. You don't have that constant poundings. If these players that are going to go in the draft play in spring, let's just say they follow Jeff Brom's spring football plan. Right, they finish, let's say mid-May, let's say late April. The draft's in June. You have 2 months to give your body a break from a season. But then guess what? You go right into football activities. You have summer workouts. You have OTAs. You have mini camps. All of a sudden, boom, training camp is in end of July. So you have, 3 or 4 months before you're right back into the football mode? I think it's too much wear and tear. We talk about too much wear and tear for college football players playing 2 seasons in the calendar year. Imagine what it's going to be going from college football to the NFL within a calendar year and having just 2 or 3 months to recover from a season and then get back into it right away. I think it's too risky. I think it's too much. So I think really anyone with NFL draft aspirations that's eligible to play, eligible to go to the draft, I think will leave. I don't think we'll have a lot of college football players gearing up and signing up for a spring season. So to answer your question, Roxana, I think the NFL draft could be messed up in terms of the dates and scouting, because if, there's no 2020 season, you're relying on the 2019 film and you're relying on testing numbers at the combine, if there is one, assuming there is one, at pro days, again, assuming there are pro days at these respective universities. So you're really, putting a lot of faith in the scouts that you have on your specific NFL team, that they can do the right job, they can identify talent. Because as we see, this is going to be, we talked about this past 2020 draft as, teams being, teams that with good scouts, the teams that invest money in scouting, those are going to be the ones that end up drafting well and making less mistakes because it's virtual, because there wasn't really, interviews that you could have. There wasn't pro days that you can get final questions on. But now think about how hard it's going to be, how many misses there are going to be if you have no pro days from last year, you have no football season at all, you can't go to campus and watch these kids in person, you can't have them come to your facility, interview them, ask them questions. It's going to be a real crapshoot for a lot of these teams. And again, the organizations that put money into scouting, that really, know how to find a scout and have those scouts that are in tight with coaches, whatever area they're in, they have their ear on the ground. We will see which teams truly are great at scouting, truly great at identifying talent, and those that aren't. Those that follow the crowd. Those that hear the rumors, this guy's great, so you know what, we're going to put him on our board, because if this team says he's a first-round draft pick, we obviously should think the same thing. Some teams rely on groupthink. And for those teams that do, oh boy, they're in a world of trouble. They're in a world of trouble for this 2021 draft. So I do want to get into that more of which teams are primed to kind of capitalize on a season that's going to be, of no season, basically a scouting season, let's call it, with no games to scout. And we're going to really see those teams that do the work, that had, basically ties and roots on the ground, already did their prep work on players last year that were going to come out this year. And we'll see those teams will really separate. In 3 or 4 years, we will see, the teams that really excel are really good. And we will see the teams that struggle are constantly redrafting again because they didn't do their great job identifying talent when it came and missing those draft picks. So it's going to be really interesting, Roxana, to see how teams draft, and it will have a major impact. Not really schedule-wise. We'll see that impact in 2, 3, 4 years from now. Which teams were good, which teams were not, and I don't think it's going to be hard to identify who's who. So I appreciate the question, appreciate you listening. Again, if you have any questions you want to ask, Worldwide Sports Network on Facebook. If you want to tweet us on Twitter, WWSRN_radio. We'll get your thoughts, we'll read your tweets. But like I said, so we did talk a lot of college football to start here. I do want to get to some NBA because today is the day. The playoffs started. We have the 8 seeding games came and went. Said a lot of teams treated them as exhibitions. So now we have some real basketball to talk about, some real intense games that actually matter. So starting the Eastern Conference. I asked the question, is anyone on upset alert? We'll go through the four matchups real quick here, give my thoughts. And I'll tell you this, the Eastern Conference is going to be a lot quicker than the Western Conference. Bucks Magic, 1 versus 8. I mean, to be honest here, the only thing that's worth watching in this series is watching Giannis see if he can keep his cool. Now, as we know, the last time we saw Giannis on the court, he headbutted the Wizards forward Mo Wagner, got a 1-game suspension. In the post game, Giannis talked about not really anything that Wagner did, but his frustration of guys grabbing him, of tripping him, of basically playing dirty throughout this entire season, especially throughout the restart. He was just so frustrated, so upset that he was constantly being grabbed, maybe not getting the whistles that he thought he should be getting. That he just took out his frustration with a headbutt. So he took a 1-game suspension. It's going to be interesting to see now that teams see that, the frustration was built, you can get under his skin. We'll see how teams kind of attack Giannis. They even try to up their game, grab him more, slap him on the wrist more, try to get in his head. Because you got him suspended for 1 game. That's massive in the playoffs. That is massive. And you got to think, if he does it again, the first-time offender was 1-game suspension. That could be 2, 3, 4 games. So that's the biggest thing to watch. Other than that, it's going to be a sweep. Magic have no shot. Good for them to make the playoffs. But they couldn't even take the 7th seed away from the Nets, who dressed everyone but your mom on the starting lineup and still managed to have a winning record. So the Magic couldn't even overcome the Jamal Crawford-led Brooklyn Nets. So they're the 8th seed. It will be a clean sweep. And again, watch and see if Giannis can keep his cool. That's the only thing worth watching here. Bucks in 4. Speaking of the Nets, Raptors versus Nets, 2 versus 7. Now again, credit to the Nets. They were a scrappy bunch. They went to the bubble. A lot of people thought maybe if they win 1 game, maybe they'll win 1 game. The Wizards are brutal. But even still, maybe they'll split. They played them twice. But instead, the Nets went 5-3 in the bubble, surprised and beat the Bucks in one of the biggest upsets spread-wise in NBA history. Caris LeVert has been a star coming into his own and really asserting himself as that third option next year behind Kevin Durant, behind Kyrie Irving. Caris LeVert is really establishing himself and putting him in that third role. But let's be honest here. The Raptors came in with the best defense, or one of the best defenses, I should say, in the NBA. They left the bubble, or left the regular season in the bubble, I should say, with the best defensive team. At least to me, I think the one thing about the Raptors is that they've really proven to everyone else, because we came in here, what did we say as soon as the regular season game started? We identified one team from the East and one team from the West. The Raptors were that team in the East. Who could be the ones to upset the Bucks, the Lakers, or the Clippers? The money on those 3 compared to the field is massive. As we know, in the NBA, there's not much parity. The Raptors, I think, have really cemented themselves as a legitimate threat. As a team, the Bucks really have to watch out for. They beat them last year. Obviously, Kawhi leaves. The Raptors still great defensively, a great and deadly transition team. I think the Raptors have transitioned themselves. Speaking of transition, have put themselves as a serious threat in the East. So I think the Raptors will sweep them in 4. And it'll be at least a nice exit, a nice little pick-me-up for the Nets. Going to next year, you get your 2 best players back, and you see Caris LeVert emerge has been definitely a good thing for the Nets. And going 5-3 in the bubble, that's a little motivator. Seeing what the rest of the team can do, and now you see, similar to last year, they are 1 or 2 great players away from being a legitimate threat in the East, and a good thing for them to have them on the roster, just waiting for them to get healthy. And that said, Raptors in 4. Intriguing matchup here. Celtics versus Sixers, 3 versus 6. I feel like we always get this matchup each and every year the last few years in the playoffs. Now, Philly, we talk about, the college football conference is being disjointed. Man, the Sixers have been disjointed all season long. They got Al Horford in the offseason. Still to this day, have not been able to figure out how they incorporate him. Coming off the bench, is he going to start? How does he fit in with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid? Should be out on the perimeter more. Can he get down low? Al Horford, as we know, is more of a post player. Haven't really been able to figure out the spacing that much. Now that even with Ben Simmons out for the year, it's still so many question marks surrounding the Sixers. You look on the other side with Boston, at least from their starters, so many different guys that could burn you. Jason Tatum, stud. Jaylen Brown, a great player. Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward. I think there's just too many weapons coming at the Sixers, not to mention they are just too up and down. They don't even know their own identity. They can't figure it out on their own. So I think this will be a tough series. I think the Sixers have enough talent to win a game or 2. Celtics bench does worry me. There's really not much depth there, not to mention the center position. Tice is going to have his hands full with Joel Embiid. So the Sixers will win a game or 2. I think I'm going to go Celtics in 6 here. With that said, Boston will advance, and Philly will go into a very, very interesting offseason. More questions about whether Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons can coexist. Brett Brown, again, will have questions surrounding his job status. It's going to be a very interesting offseason to see what does happen here in Philadelphia. But Sixers in 6. And finally in the East, a rivalry that maybe, according to Jimmy Butler, is dead. We have the Heat and the Pacers. Obviously, going back earlier a few months ago, you had T.J. Warren and Jimmy Butler really get into it. Both jawing at each other, both really getting each other's faces. And there was a serious, serious beef there. But according now to Jimmy Butler, they stomped out the Pacers. They really extinguished them in their one game in the seeding games. And now there's no real rivalry. But you look at the actual team, away from that little beef that happened, the Heat just have a major depth advantage. I mean, T.J. Warren has been a star, and he has really emerged for the Pacers. But when he is off the floor, when he comes out, when he sits out, man, is not pretty. Boy, do they miss him. Because Victor Oladipo, their bona fide superstar, right? Their guy, before he got hurt, he was their guy. He struggled. Now that he comes back, he really struggled to find a rhythm. Defensively, he's been pretty good, but offensively, he struggled to find a shot, struggled to kind of be that second option behind T.J. Warren, who's just scoring and scoring and scoring. And I like that the Heat have a lot of three-point shooting. Duncan Robinson has been great from deep for them. So with that, I'm going to say Heat in 5. I think the Pacers will get a game. They do have talent in their starting 5. But I'm going to go Heat in 5. So I have the Heat in 5, Celtics in 6, Raptors in 4, Bucks in 4. I'll apologize. I know it's all chalk. I picked 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm going to pick what I think. I'm not going to go on a limb. I'm not going to give you a crazy Nets over Raptors prediction. Magic pushing the Bucks to 6 or 7. Tell you how it is. First round, there's not much parity in the NBA anyway, right? That's a league where, really in the playoffs, it's not the saying anything can happen. That's not true. Any given Sunday does not apply. The better team, the one with the more talent, wins and wins out more often than not. Very more often than not. So, at least for the East, I apologize. Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, and Heat. Seeds 1, 2, 3, 4. I do have it advancing with the Celtics and Sixers going at least the longest with 6 games. Now, the Western Conference is interesting. So that's why I want to kind of break this up. We'll take a break. When we come back, the Western Conference predictions. You have the Red Hot Trailblazers, maybe one of the best 8 seeds we've ever seen in playoff history. They are coming in hot. Damian Lillard is a man that cannot be figured out or extinguished. And Clippers Mavericks, an interesting little matchup there. So we'll get the Western Conference predictions on the Morning Boards. Ryan Hickey return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
In 15 minutes, we have the third place 2020 or Apocalypse matchup. The 2-seed Cody Enos, the 5-seed Lauren Clark. The third place prize there, and at least a chance to leave on a high note, leave on a win. We'll see who can get the third place prize. Get in the money. 10-20 of 2020 Apocalypse. We'll have the finals on Thursday. Joe and Sarah, 1 versus 3. This is probably the best matchup we could possibly have for the finals. So I'm very excited to see how this goes. Joe's on a hot streak. Sarah is a winner. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll do that on Thursday and crown the 2020 or Apocalypse champion. And at 10:40, I want to talk about Alex Smith's comeback from injury as one of the greatest comebacks we've ever seen. Also, like I said, I was off on Thursday. We're out in Montauk for my dad's birthday for a few days. I want to kind of throw this by you guys. I'll tell the story at 10:40 or so, but is there a limit when you ask someone to watch your stuff? Is there an unwritten rule of how long you should be gone for? I'll explain what happened and kind of the situation I was in, again, at 10:40 end the show. But we are talking NBA basketball. We are talking playoff predictions. We just went through the West. We just went through the East. Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Heat, 1, 2, 3, 4. I apologize. It is chalk, but I'll tell you what I think, and unfortunately, I don't see any upsets brewing here, at least out of the East. Now, on Facebook, Beth writes in, she's a big Sixers fan, and she's right. Sixers got Al Horford just so they didn't have to play him. It is crazy how they haven't been able to figure out how to have him coexist with Joel Embiid, how to have him coexist with Ben Simmons. So that's been a real struggle, and again, part of the reason why I think the Celtics will beat the Sixers. Just still, there's so much disjointedness, no real cohesion, and no real plan or identity. And the Sixers have. And also, a big fan of the show. So Roxana, we appreciate listening. Roxana writes in no in capitals. I'm not sure what she was referring to as no. And Zion taking the Lakers on a run hard in playoff. Now, Roxana, I hate to tell you, I'm not sure if you're a Pelicans fan or not, just big Zion fan or not. Zion and the Pelicans are not in the playoffs. They did not qualify. So it will be Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers that will be playing the Lakers in the first round. No Zion. I know maybe, if you don't watch too many of the games, you think, all right, the NBA made this resumption plan for the Pelicans to get Zion in the playoffs, to have Zion and LeBron in the first round. It makes a lot of sense, right? I'm actually pretty surprised, to be honest, that it's not the Pelicans. Because it was catered to, and you figured the league would try to do their best to get the big, burgeoning superstar in Zion on the stage in the playoffs to get eyeballs in the first round. Did not happen. So if this is the first time you're hearing that, I'm sorry. I don't want to be the guy to give you the bearer of bad news, but the Zion is already home for the rest of the season. He's on the couch. He's on the beach, wherever he is. But the Pelicans will not be taking on the Lakers. It will be the Trailblazers, and we'll start there. Lakers, Trailblazers, 1 versus 8, the most intriguing 1 versus 8 we may ever have. Here's the storylines heading in. Because what Damian Lillard has done in this restart, I mean, who's been better? Who can stop him? In the 8 games, he's averaged 36.7 points per game. In the final 3 games, he totaled 154 points. The only player ever in NBA history to score 154 points in the last 3 games of the season. So when the Trailblazers needed him the most, when they had to get wins just to get into the playing game and then beat the Grizzlies, Damian was at his best. And now you look at the Lakers and you look at their guard situation. Avery Bradley opted out, not there. So you're going to rely on Alex Caruso, Dion Waiters, and J.R. Smith. Somewhere in there, you're going to rely on those guys for the most part that are tasked not only with stopping Damian Lillard, but C.J. McCollum. Good luck. Good luck to the Lakers trying to slow down the Blazers. They were the number 1 offensive team in the bubble. They were scoring with the best of them. And if you watch Damian Lillard at all at any of these 8 games, he can't be stopped. It gets to the point where you literally have to guard him as soon as he crosses half court. Because if not, we saw in the last game against the Nets, he will pull up from the logo, and he will make it. They don't call him Logo Lillard for nothing. So the Blazers, red hot, hottest team in the bubble. Fight their way in, get in the play-in round, get the actual 8 seed, dispose of the Grizzlies, and now you have white-hot Damian Lillard trying to lead a massive upset against a Lakers team that was anything but hot. They look anything but good in this bubble. So the question is, will it be enough? Will this number one offense in the bubble be enough? Will Damian Lillard scoring lights out be enough to dispose of LeBron James, dispose of Anthony Davis, and get the Lakers out in the first round? Unfortunately, I want to say yes. One of my good friends, Stu, big Lakers fan, I love giving him crap. And we have, a lot of my friends have these last few days, talking about how the Blazers are going to dispose of the Lakers. I'll be completely honest, though. I don't think it's going to happen. While their offense has been incredible, like I said, number one team offensively in the bubble, their defense has been putrid. They are 20th out of 22 teams in defensive efficiency. We talk about who's going to guard Damian Lillard and who's going to guard C.J. McCollum, especially with Avery Bradley gone. Well, I'll flip that question. Who's going to guard LeBron James? That answer is nobody. You're not putting Carmelo on him. Maybe you could put Gary Trent. There's a massive size advantage. LeBron is unguardable when it comes to the Blazers. A terrible matchup. So now, well, yes, the Lakers have their own concerns. They have legitimate concerns. Because LeBron and AD have struggled with, especially consistency. LeBron's looked out of sync. Haven't been able to really get in their groove. Their offense has been very bad. They're second and last in points per game. They are dead last in three-point field goal percentage. Two categories you don't want to be near the bottom in, that's for sure. But with that said, despite Damian Lillard being white hot, despite the Blazers themselves being red hot, I think there's just too much talent for the Blazers to overcome. There's too much talent in the Lakers for me. Not to mention, the good point here is because the Blazers have put basically all their effort into every single game, their stars are logging a ton of minutes. Carmelo Anthony himself, think about this, has logged the third most minutes, in the bubble. Only two ahead of him, Lillard and McCollum. So the Blazers have put a lot of energy, exuded a lot of energy getting just to this point. I think they're going to get tired. I think that they're going to hit a wall. I'm going to say Lakers are 5. I'll give the Blazers one game. But unfortunately, I can't do it. I can't pick the 8 seed to upset. I think the Lakers are just too talented to have too much firepower. Lakers and 5, a hell of a run Portland. And hopefully Damian Lillard goes off again. At least we get to see one of the great point guards in this game just continue to dominate. So Lakers at 5. Clippers versus Mavericks. To me, this is the most intriguing first-round matchup, to be honest. Because what Luka Doncic has done so far in the restart has been incredible. He's had an incredible second season. And that's going to be so much fun seeing him in the playoffs. But, man, he's going to have his hands full. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Patrick Beverley. It's going to be just waves and waves and waves of defenders hounding him, chasing him, and being all in his grill throughout the entire series. And these are really scary about the Mavericks because they have talent. They have Doncic as a great ball handler, a great scorer, a great passer. Kristaps Porzingis has been great in the restart. 30 points per game. Outside, inside, he can shoot all over the floor. But their experience does worry me. First postseason experience for Doncic. First postseason experience for Porzingis. Look at the other side, the Clippers. I mean, that's all they have is postseason experience. Kawhi Leonard coming off a Finals MVP. Paul George has been in the playoffs year after year after year. That core that they had, Patrick Beverley, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, pushed the Warriors to 6 last year. They have a lot of playoff experience. They know what it takes to win in the playoffs. So that inexperience on the Mavericks scares me. Not to mention, despite the fact that you're going to hear this a lot, if you haven't been watching too much, you're going to hear this a lot in this series. The Mavericks have the most efficient offense in NBA history. They are efficient. They don't waste a lot of shots. They score. They get good looks. But you know what's really concerning? You know what that most efficient offense in NBA history can't help them with? Their late game woes. They have been horrendous when it comes to close games in late situations. They have 18 losses this year of 5 points or less. Every close game does not go their way. So I get concerned that that trend is just going to continue. I don't see how that reverses against a team that knows how to close in the Clippers. A ton of veteran leadership, a ton of playoff experience on that team. They know how to close. I mean, hell, the whole goal of the Clippers season was to close. They didn't care how they started. They didn't care how long it took for them to get on the same page. As long as they were on the same page, as long as they were healthy for the playoffs, that's all that mattered. All they cared about was closing. The Mavericks, that's the one thing they can't do. Close. So, because of that, the whole cavalry is back. You have Montrezl Harrell coming back now to the bubble. So the full cavalry, the whole army is there for Doc Rivers and the Clippers. I'm going to say Clippers in 6. I think the talent that Doncic and Porzingis have will give them a game or two. But in the end, Clippers too strong, too experienced. And again, those late game moves by the Mavericks, really, really, really concerning. I don't see it turning around. Clippers in 6. Let's go to Nuggets and Jazz, 3 versus 6. To me, this is going to be the big man. This is going to be the big man matchup. So far, as we've seen, the NBA is really transitioning to a spread out, wide open floor. The days of the old school center are really dead. Rudy Gobert still is one of those few guys that is down low, that's blocking shots, that is that rim protector. So him versus Nikola Jokic. That's what's the matchup is going to come down and determine this series. And if you're a Nuggets fan, that's good news. Because in the 3 games the Nuggets and the Jazz have played this year, Jokic has been unstoppable. 29 points a game, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. Almost average a triple-double against Rudy Gobert and the Jazz. Not to mention, you lose Bojan Bogdanovic, a massive, massive blow scoring-wise for the Jazz. And so they lose one of their great scorers. The Jazz do. A great scorer has emerged for the Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr., I mean, you talk about have yourself a bubble. 22 points per game. This guy's a legitimate scoring threat. He went from a bench option just to give you some minutes, maybe get 3, 4, 5 points a game. He had a few decent games. But he set a career high 3 different times in the bubble for points. He stepped up a big way. He's a great complement to what Jokic does. Loves being that center down low. He spreads out and finds and gives the big men options to pass the ball. So because the Nuggets are trending with their scoring going up, the Jazz are losing scores. I'll say Nuggets in 6. I like the way they're playing. They advance. And finally, the revenge series, the petty series, Rockets Thunder. Remember in the offseason, you had Chris Paul from the Rockets shipped out to OKC. Russell Westbrook shipped out from OKC over to Houston. Supposed to leave Chris Paul for dead. Him and a lot of young players. Supposed to be built for the future. But what Chris Paul with the Thunder have done, very commendable. Not only making the playoffs, being the 5 seed. It's been incredible to watch the Thunder's development. They've really grown up. Chris Paul has been a great leader, which is wild to say considering how you watch his other stints. Whether it's the Clippers, whether it's the Rockets. The leadership, let's say, was not his foray. But he's galvanized that Thunder team, and they have really taken a hold and taken a liking to him. And it's going to be really interesting to watch. Russell Westbrook, the guy that obviously Chris Paul got traded for, we'll see his status. I mean, he's out for game 1 at least. He has a quad strain. There's no real timetable for when he can return. He can miss the entire series. He can miss 2 or 3 games. That's something to watch. But I'll say this. The layoff, and we talked about this when I picked the Rockets. Going back to the one team in the West that could really shake up a Lakers-Clippers Western Conference final, I said it was the Rockets because to me their ceiling was the highest of any team. Part of the reason why I believe that is because James Harden will actually have a rest now and be rejuvenated when it comes to the playoffs. He led the league in minutes. He's always up there among the league leaders in minutes played per the regular season. When he got to the playoffs, his legs would get tired, and when your legs get tired as a three-point shooter, you're in big trouble. Well, guess what? That 4-month layoff has benefited James Harden one of the most of anyone. 35 points per game, shooting 53.6% from the floor. So now you have an energized, rejuvenated James Harden leading the way, even if Russell Westbrook's not there for a few games. I think that's going to be the difference because to me, and the Thunder are still finally coming together. You got Steven Adams back 100%. You have Dennis Schroeder now. So they finally are coming back together at one time. But I'm going to go with the elite player here. Talent wins out in the NBA, right? More than ever, we see talented teams, or teams, I should say, with the most elite players, end up winning most of the time. I will roll with James Harden. I will roll with his scoring right now and his hot streak. I think the Rockets will win in 6. Close series, really close series because the Thunder can give the Rockets fits, especially down low. Steven Adams is going to just bully his way in the paint. But with that said, I will go with the elite player. I'll go with the elite scorer. James Harden leads the Rockets in 6. So just like the Eastern Conference, I apologize for going chalk. Rockets, Nuggets, Clippers, Lakers. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the East. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the West. So any thoughts on any playoff series that you have? Any upsets that you are really sitting on? Any teams that maybe I'm not giving enough respect to, or maybe that there's some concerns that I'm not looking at? Reach out. Let me know. Facebook, World at Sports Radio Network. Twitter, WWSRN_radio. Let's hear your Eastern Conference, your Western Conference playoff predictions. Playoff basketball, baby. Playoff basketball. We got it right here starting at 1:30 today. Matinee playoff basketball. The only thing better than regular college basketball, playoff basketball, is daytime playoff basketball. So enjoy that. We'll see how these series go. But to me, I have chalk. I think talent wins out. Not much parity, especially in the first round in the NBA. So I'm going 1 through 4 in the East, 1 through 4 in the West. Let's hear your thoughts. Worldwide Sports Network on Facebook, WWSRN_radio on Twitter. So get your thoughts on the NBA playoff and your predictions. And when we come back, 2020 Apocalypse, third place, still pride on the line, still money on the line. Who will take home the first prize? That is third place. In 2020 Apocalypse, the 2-seed Cody, the 5-seed Lauren Clark will get it next when the Morning Boys are on Hickey return right here on the Worldwide Sports Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And we are back here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, entering the final week of 2020 or Apocalypse. We've gotten through the regular season, we've got through the playoffs, the Final Four is set, and now on Thursday we'll try our, if I can speak, crown our champion. But before that, there's 3 prizes on the line, third place included, and we will find out who will claim third place, who is the first to touch the money here, as we have a great matchup, and I'll tell you this, in the break, talking about Cody, the 2-seed, Lauren, the 5-seed. It's going to be contentious, it's going to be aggressive. Cody, the 2-seed, coming out firing, talking some smack, saying, I can't wait to destroy you. Cody going with the intimidation tactics today. We'll see if it pays off. Cody, I would ask how you're doing. I know you're fired up. So you're feeling good today, I guess.
I'm always feeling good. If I wake up in the morning, I'm feeling good, Hickey. You know, I'm disappointed I'm not in the championship round, but I'm coming for that third place prize. Going to redeem myself. Going to drink some Lauren Tears this morning, and we're ready to get underway.
So I'll say this, there's always sometimes a question of a hangover. Are teams worth it? If they lose a big game, they still have one more to play. You see the energy's not there. They may be not into it if it's a bowl game that they weren't hoping to be in. Not you. That's not the case with you. You wanted to be in the finals. You missed out, but you are coming here to play, and you're coming for that third place crown. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely. I mean, definitely not a hangover because I didn't do any celebrating. I've been coming off my only loss of the year. I've been practicing, reading up on headlines for the past couple of weeks, so I am prepared. I'm not going out with a 2-game losing streak. I'm going to come for that third place prize, going to get that bronze medal, and let's go. I've never been more focused.
Never been more focused, never been fired up, not overlooking this third place game. His competitor, his competition, Lauren, the 5-seed. Now, Cody, watch out. Lauren informed me in the break she had the best sleep of her life yesterday, or I guess last night going to today. So she is focused. She is ready to go. Lauren, what's up?
Well, I can't really follow Cody's intro. My God, this guy's fired up. I'm ready to get destroyed. But, I'm just hoping that, maybe that sleep did something to me. And we're just hoping that we're riding off that, okay? That's what we're saying. I just want the money from Hickey. That's it.
Talk about 2 different strategies. Cody is laser-focused, motivated, and trying to intimidate. Lauren goes, I hope I win. I hope I don't get destroyed. It's a hope and a prayer for Lauren versus confidence and intimidation from Cody. This is going to be contrasting sides. We'll see how this works. This is going to be a lot of fun. So, as we know, third place prize, $15. No, hey, it's better than 0, but it is something. 5 questions, the same rules do apply. Since Cody is the 2-seed, the higher seed, he will go first here for question number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to go for third place and a prize?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
All right. A new study has discovered that the average adult can have a maximum of 5 alcoholic drinks per week, and that each pint above that shortens their life by 15 minutes. Is that 2020? Is that a real study or apocalypse? Cody, you're up.
Can I hear that one more time?
Sure. A new study has discovered that the average adult can have a maximum of 5 alcoholic drinks per week, and that each pint above that 5 drinks a week limit, shortens a person's life by 15 minutes. Each pint above that shortens their life by 15 minutes each time. 2020 or apocalypse?
I mean, Hickey, we, based off of our college days, me and you are ready to drop dead any second now, if that is true. So going off of hope alone, I'm going to say that is apocalypse. That is not 2020. 15 minutes seems like a weird every drink I take off 15 minutes. I don't know. Usually you see like it takes a year off your life, takes a couple months off your life. 15 minutes seems very arbitrary and very odd. And just, going back again to our college days at Penn State, I'm hoping that is not true, because I will not be seeing my 30s if that is true. So I'm going to say apocalypse.
Better get your house in order, start writing your will, and start getting ready to pawn off what you need if that is true. So Lauren, you heard Cody. He said no way. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to go 2020 just because I'm not sure I trust that you would come up with a pint. Like, I don't know.
I thought that too. Me and Lauren talked about this a little bit while we were on hold. We got to get in the mind of Hickey. She said she doesn't really do this, but that's usually my strategy. But interesting that she's going that way now.
I'm going to go 2020. And if that's the case, then we are, in fact, all screwed. But we're going 2020.
You're going 2020. Cody going apocalypse. Lauren Clark, you, ma'am, are correct. This is a real study. Science has backed this up. Every alcoholic drink, each pint, and I'll be honest, I would not have put the word pint in there.
Exactly.
Lauren, you are correct about that. Shortens a person's life by 15 minutes. So, yeah, Cody, maybe all three of us right now should just stop playing and just start,
I better start writing my will.
Yeah.
I got to get off this line. I got more important things to do. I may not have much time.
That's true. Get that bucket list ready to go. Pandemic be damned. You got things to see before the end comes. According to this study, sooner rather than later. That is true. 2020, why the hell not? Let's just forget everything else that's going on. Let's just shorten our life by doing the one thing that's fun. That is true, 2020. And Lauren, you, ma'am, are up 1-0 going to question number 2. Amtrak announced that in order to try and mitigate the spread of the virus, they are canceling all trips to states with high COVID-19 cases. 2020 or apocalypse?
I'm going to go apocalypse. For no reason.
Okay. No thought, no logic. She's guessing apocalypse.
I feel like I would have heard it. About it.
Okay. So you're going to say you're in tune with society, with social, what goes on.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. Well, you're saying it enough to say that you would have heard about Amtrak not going to states with high COVID-19 rates. All right. So you're going apocalypse for really no reason. So Cody, I'm not sure if that helps or hurts your thoughts here, but what are you thinking here?
Can I hear that again?
Sure. Amtrak announced that in order to try and mitigate the spread of the virus, they are canceling all trips to states with high COVID-19 cases.
I mean, yeah, I'm leaning towards agreeing with Lauren here. I feel like I would have heard about that. And I know Amtrak, they go to Florida a lot, is a big one for them. And there's a lot of cases there, so I feel like it wouldn't even be worth opening and operating if they're canceling all of those trips. And that's a very simple one. We're in the mind of Hickey who can come up with it. I'm gonna agree with Lauren here. As much as I want to tie it up, I think this one is apocalypse.
Both of you citing you have pulse of the people, ear to the ground, and you know what's going on. You would hear it if this was happening. Both of you are correct in that logic. It is made up, not true. Amtrak is not canceling any cases or any trips, I should say, to high COVID-19 states. Cody, like you said, right, they would basically shut the door and cancel, pack it up for Amtrak if they are basically going from New York to, New Jersey and maybe like Montana, if that was the case for all states with low COVID-19 rates. So this is false, not made up, but that's congratulations to both of you. 2-1 Lauren, though, as you go to question 3. Cody, you will go first. Are you ready? A man who was sunbathing naked at a Berlin lake went viral after he was seen chasing a wild boar who stole his bag, which contained his laptop, eventually getting the bag back, but after running past many onlookers. So essentially it was a man going streaking by a Berlin lake because he was chasing after a wild boar who stole his laptop. 2020 or apocalypse?
Man, there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there. I can read it again if you need.
Please read it again. Yeah.
Sure. So a man sunbathing nude at a Berlin lake, it was a nudist lake, went viral after he was seen chasing a wild boar who stole his laptop. Eventually did get it back, but after he ran back, many onlookers at the lake who were just trying to enjoy a nice lake day got a sight at a man running nude chasing a wild boar.
There's so many weird details there that I'm going to say that's 2020. I think, you wouldn't include the laptop part. You wouldn't the wild boar part. You would come up with a different animal if you were making this up. I'm going 2020.
All right. No, in Cody's mind, no way can make it up. Lauren, do you agree or disagree?
I am going 2020. I'd like to thank my mom for telling me the story the other day.
Wow. So look at that, Cody. I'm actually
Wow.
shocked that you didn't hear. I was kind of almost not even going to put this in there because I figured it's kind of almost a too national of a story where people are talking about it enough. But Lauren, you know it. Cody, your thoughts are right there. You both are
But I'll
correct.
agree with Cody. It is too complex for your brain.
I don't know why.
That's not saying much, but
This
It's just like, there are too
entire
many, like 4 laptops. He goes and he gets the laptop back.
well, you got to get it into the story. It'd be worse if I just said he stole a laptop. Well, did he get it back or not? Like you got to include some sort of ending there. But that is true. I did not make it up. I thank you both again for belittling my brain. Again, every show here, every game, no matter who's a contestant, it's always about you're not smart enough. You're too dumb to make that up. So that's definitely real. Without a doubt, that has worked up. But that logic, I guess, is undefeated because you both are correct. You both are correct, and that is a real story. Like I said, as Lauren knows, she heard about it firsthand, and that did get a lot of national attention. That is for sure. Lauren, you're 3 for 3. Not to jinx you, you do have a 3-2 lead over Cody. Going to question number 4. A group of Black Lives Matter protesters, in Seattle, marched down a residential street last week and demanded that white people living on the block give up their homes for black people. 2020 or apocalypse?
Is this me answering?
Yes, sorry, you were going first.
Okay. God. I will.
So Black
I'm gonna
Lives
go-
Matter protesters in Seattle marched down a residential street and demanded that all the white people living on the block give up their homes for black people.
All right, I'm gonna go apocalypse.
Apocalypse, not true. Okay. Cody. Lauren took a long time with that. She's on the fence, it seemed like. Well, what is your thoughts here? I guess, am I smart enough? I'll put it this way. Am I smart enough to come up with something like this to make it up? Or is this a real headline?
well, I
think
know
you're right.
the Pacific Northwest is where a lot of the more radical stuff is happening in Portland and Seattle as well. So I don't know if you're smart enough to know that, or you just thought,
Are you kidding me?
Random city and Seattle happened to make sense in this scenario.
Holy cow.
My first instinct says this is apocalypse, but due to the score right now, and the situation I'm in, I feel like I don't have a choice but to disagree with Lauren, and for that reason, I'm going 2020.
Wow, taking a risk. If you get this question wrong, Lauren gets it right. It's over. Should be up 2 questions with 1 to go. So you're going
but
2020.
if I pick the same as Lauren, then next round she can just pick whatever I pick, and I'm sunk anyway. So hands are tied here.
Hands are tied. You're going the opposite. You're saying 2020. Lauren is saying apocalypse. Cody, your strategy's paid off. It is 2020. It's real. It is definitely, yes, a lot more radical up there in the Pacific Northwest. I am aware. Again, I'm looking for a lot of headlines here, so I feel like I'm in tune more than I guess both of you think. But yes, it is wild, and this is a real 2020 story. And with that said, no shock here. We are tied at 3. Going to question number 5. Possible winner take all. Overtime looming. Cody, you will go first with number 5. 2 Illinois teenagers were running a lemonade stand near their house when they were robbed at gunpoint by 2 people who made off with a total of $30. 2020 or apocalypse?
Let me hear that again.
Sure. 2 Illinois teenagers set up a lemonade stand near their house, and they were robbed at gunpoint by 2 people who made off with $30. Are kids, teenagers, getting robbed at gunpoint by setting up
My
lemonade
first thought
stands.
is, what teenagers are setting up a lemonade stand?
Teenagers.
I don't know what 16-year-old hippie was doing, but I wasn't setting up. I was worried about more important things than lemonade stands at that age.
Cody was doing cooler things, huh? At 16? Well,
I was indeed. That's where I peaked.
That
All
doesn't mean
downhill
you
from there.
wasn't lemonade stand though.
somehow you managed to insult me, and if this story is true, you insult the kids by being losers. So thank you, and thank the kids for that. Again, if this is a real story. Unbelievable,
I'm
the
gonna
shots that get
say-
taken here.
I'm saying Apocalypse.
All right, you are going to go Apocalypse. Now, Lauren, a lot of strategy here going last. You can either play for overtime if you're unsure. If you know this is true, take a guess. Go risk it. Go 2020. What are your thoughts here? What are we thinking? That good night's sleep should have gave you some clarity. So we'll see which side of the fence you're on.
I don't. The strategy side is just something I just close my eyes to. So,
Throw a dart at the wall. Does it hit 2020 or Apocalypse? Where's it come closer to?
I'm gonna go 2020.
So you're going to go 2020. So this is going to end right here.
Wow.
No overtime. We're going to have a.
Should I have good enough
She locked it in.
Oh.
She locked it
Oh
in.
no. No.
Is 2020 the final answer? Is it locked in?
So I have a question.
Okay.
So if I say the same as Cody, then it would go to overtime, and then I get more opportunity.
We'll go to overtime. And I mean, yeah, either win, right or wrong, we go
This
overtime.
is the third round match. What is this? We just throwing. Is this charity here? I heard locked in. I heard she locked in 2020.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll do that.
So locked in 2020. So you're going 2020.
With no
Cody's going
confidence.
Apocalypse. The old Western shootout. Well, guess what, Lauren? Your uneasiness, your uncertainty paid off. It is a real
you gotta be
story.
kidding.
This is true. Illinois teenagers, 13-year-olds, well, I guess we're losers, running their stand, and they are robbed at gunpoint. True story, which means Lauren Clark.
They deserve it. They deserve it if they're running a one-night stand at 13. Go chase after girls. Come on.
That should be in the championship round. Cody, that'll be a news headline. Cody says teenagers held at gunpoint deserved it.
Good. They had to come.
Okay, not the gunpoint part, but they deserve it.
But getting robbed by $30, good. Lose your mind. Holy cow. Hopefully no one in Illinois is listening right now. But that is true, which unfortunately, because Cody, I can't lie, I was rooting for you because now Lauren's not going to stop bragging about it. That means
yeah.
Lauren Clark, the girl with a ton of sleep, uncertainty, hope, and a prayer essentially was her strategy, ends up getting third place. Wow.
Congrats, Lauren.
I was going to say, I maybe I'll split the prize with Cody.
No, you deserve it. I don't need any pity money. You deserve it.
Cody,
as long as it comes from Hickey's pocket, I'm happy.
That's a good point, yeah.
Cody with the least energized. Congratulations! I think that was if that was a handshake, that was a handshake versus just a dead fish. Cody just turns his back,
No,
throws
if
his hand
anyone
out.
were to win, I'm glad it's Lauren. I'm disappointed in myself more than anything.
Cody, we got to ask the confidence, the focus. I mean, what happened? You were fired up. It seems like you intimidated Lauren. Your strategy worked, but in the end,
I guess I didn't,
2-game losing
I didn't
streak.
get a good enough sleep last night. That's apparently it. But you know what? The grind for the 2021 championship starts tomorrow, and I'm already thinking about it.
Cody's already rooting for the worst to happen, rooting for more kids to get robbed at gunpoint here by hoping or opening a lemonade stand. So Lauren, we congratulate you. Unfortunately, I guess we'll send the Venmo over sometime. That's gonna sting.
Zeros on the end of it.
But congratulations, Lauren. You are third place. Cody, unfortunately for you, we have nothing to offer you. But for both of you, I appreciate you guys. I think this is the fourth time both of you have been on the playoffs in the regular season. I appreciate you playing, and fingers crossed, Cody. I know you want redemption. Fingers crossed we aren't doing a 2021 or Apocalypse because, let's just say, we're all in big trouble if we are still at this point next year. That's also true. Hopefully we get there, first of all. But
especially
Right.
with the pints per 15 minutes. I'm not sure.
Oh, we're not making it to November. No shot.
that is true. So, Cody, this is the last time I talked to you. I guess it was good. It was good knowing you. Rooming you through was a fun time, and hopefully in heaven they have college football. At least so we can watch the Knicks.
Thanks for having me on. Great host as always. Disappointed, but again, congrats to Lauren.
Thanks, Cody.
Congratulations, Lauren. Again, that Venmo is definitely coming. Wink, wink, for sure.
With some zeros.
Definitely won't forget. But third place, bragging rights, because you ended on a winning streak. So congratulations, and both of you again. We appreciate you playing.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
That is the great Lauren and the great Cody. A big upset here. I'll say a big upset. As Lauren takes the crown and wins third place in 2020 Apocalypse, we will have a knockout, drag-out fight on Thursday. Joe Pidell, Sarah Tronkali, the 1 seed versus the 3 seed. In 2020 Apocalypse, only one will be the champion. We'll do it on Thursday. And when we come back, we'll finish off the show with a weird story about really some social rules I want to talk about when involved with watching other people's stuff. And Alex Smith, is this the best injury comeback we've ever seen in sports history? We'll do it when the Morning Boys Ron Hickey return right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's time to wake up with the Morning Boys on Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And here's your host, Ryan Hickey.
And we are back here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network on this Monday morning. We appreciate you tuning in wherever you are. Thanks so much for tuning in here on this Monday morning, right here to the Morning Boys. And we congratulate one last time Lauren Clark, the third place finisher. She beats Cody Enos 4-3 in an exciting matchup, walk-off winner, as she claims third place, gets the prize, and now we will focus our attention to the finals. Joe Pidell, Sarah Tronkali, 1 versus 3 seed. Both have been really, you look at the stats, look at the answers, the confidence. Both have been the two most consistent and dominant players throughout this entire tournament. It's only fitting that those two will duke it out to finish the championship and get crowned, 2020 or Apocalypse champion. We'll do that Thursday, 10:20. Very, very, very excited for that. Should be a great match. And if it doesn't go to overtime, honestly, I'll be surprised. I think that's how close it's going to be. So before we get to Alex Smith here, I just want to ask the social question. Because, again, I was out here on Thursday. I was at the beach celebrating my dad's birthday out in Montauk. And I'm curious because, beach culture is very different than almost real life. It almost feels like it's not real life in a sense that, you go to a beach town, whether you're staying there, whether there's a house there, it's very trustworthy in a sense that everyone is really not shy about leaving their stuff out. You leave your chairs kind of either at the beach or outside your room. You leave towels out. Really, for the most part, even stuff that's valuable, you don't really leave. You don't really have too much of a concern of people stealing it. It's just, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the beach. Everyone's happy there. There's no reason to feel like you should steal something. But it's, it's just kind of that's the culture it is. And so speaking of that and kind of putting just that out there, at least. So Thursday we're at the beach, kind of hanging out. Not a great day, cloudy day. Just kind of hanging out. A little rain here or there. But for most of us, we're just chilling. The Mets were playing, listening to the game on the radio. Just kind of hanging out. And this guy that kind of sat in front of us, we were there Wednesday and then Thursday. So he sat in front of us Wednesday. So, we've seen each other there. Then we're back in almost the same spots on Thursday. So, you know each other without really knowing each other. Didn't say a word. I think believe we're both staying at the same place. So it's, you kind of feel more secure because you see someone there. So he came over to our group, and at this point, just me and my sister. And he asked, I guess could be here for a little bit. I'm just going to run up to the room, get a few things like, can you mind just watching my stuff? He had chairs, had a few things. He had a nice fishing rod. That's really probably the most valuable thing he had there. Great fishing rod. He's trying to fish off the beach for both days. I'll be back. Can you watch this stuff here for a little bit? Yeah, of course. You do it on the train a lot. People go to the bathroom. Hey, can you watch my stuff? But I'm curious, what is the unwritten rule of how long can you be gone for? What's the limit where you can ask someone to watch your stuff before it's like, all right, is this guy going to come back? I have stuff to do. I want to go to the bathroom or want to get stuff myself, or maybe I want to go to the beach again. It wasn't a great day. Sprinkled here and there. So maybe you just want to get off the beach. What is the appropriate time for you, or what is really the assumed time, I should say, for you to watch someone's stuff? So this guy was gone, no joke, an hour. An hour. Hey, going back to the room, just got a few things here. You mind watching the stuff? No problem. I assume 10 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, half hour tops. And who knows what this guy did? He went back to the room. Then he went out to go get lunch. Maybe he drove around. Maybe drove home, came back. Who knows? He was gone a while. And like I said, it's not the best day. So it's not like you're there all, you're going to be camped out for the rest of the day. Well, what is socially acceptable? I guess for me, at least, if I ask someone to watch something, especially at the beach, I'm only going not that long. Maybe 20 minutes at the most. There has to be some sort of social time. I'm going to say a half hour at the absolute most. And that's if you're not even planning out. That's if you're really running late, things go awry, and it's oh, crap, I hope they're still there sort of thing. If I'm gone for a half hour, at that point, I'm not assuming they're there. I'm hoping they're still there. That's a long time. Because now you're responsible, if you're the person being asked to watch your stuff, also watch someone else's stuff without really having any clue if they're coming back or not, if they are truly, if they'll be mad. Because that's something, too. Are you responsible if you leave and something gets stolen? Is it on you if you leave because you're not waiting around too long? So I'm curious because I feel like there's really no answer to it. And I guess, obviously, this guy's definition was an hour. My definition was 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. So I'm just curious, because we've all been there. Again, whether it's a train, whether it's a beach, whether it's anywhere you are in a social setting, someone goes up, even in the park, go to the bathroom, go get something to eat, got to go to their car. Hey, can you watch this for a second? I'll be back. Just, make sure no one steals it. It's assumed. You're all, if you're in the same area, you're kind of all on one team. You want the same thing done to you if you had to go somewhere. So you kind of, trust the person there that they can watch your stuff. Thankfully, he came back, but I'll be honest. There was if it was 5 minutes later, I think I might have left. Completely honest. It was close. And again, this is a nice fishing rod, a few other things there, a few bags there. So it's not like he just had basically a beach chair that was it. There's some decent things there that, definitely have to be watched. But yeah, I'm just curious because for the most part, anytime it's happened to me, mostly happens on the train, even the beach too. It's not that long. It's only 20, 30 minutes. So I'm curious if there's like a social limit, respectable limit that, people, when you say, hey, can you watch this? I thought there was an assumed time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being, not, I guess, caring enough is the right word. But I'm curious your thoughts. If you've ever been in this situation, what's the longest you can possibly do it for? And if you go somewhere, you ask someone to watch your stuff, what are we thinking here? Well, what's the time limit? So mine's 20. Some people, like this guy on the beach the other day, was an hour. So I guess we all have, I thought for the most part, we're all socially on the same time clock, I'll say. Kind of all understood the unwritten rules. But again, I guess the rules are different depending on where you are and who you are. But so I'd love your thoughts, again, before we get out of here, if there's a social clock acceptance on how long someone should watch your stuff for, how long they're responsible to watch your stuff before it just gets too ridiculous. Got to do other things. Can't just, have the whole life stop. So you can watch this person's bag who you have no clue when they're coming back, if they're coming back. So just want to get out there really quickly here. Yesterday marked a great milestone. Alex Smith, quarterback for Washington, hasn't played in 2 years. And that gruesome broken leg against the Texans back in November. If you're squeamish, I highly suggest you don't watch it. Just know that leg was broken so bad, he needed 17 surgeries on his right leg and almost had his leg amputated. Then developed an infection that almost took his life. So I'm curious because now Alex Smith, yesterday, was cleared for football activity. He was allowed to go back to practice and practice with the quarterbacks, dropping back, throwing passes, and be like a member of the team. So I was going through some injuries. I was going through different comebacks in sports from injuries. I think even if he doesn't take another snap, this is the greatest comeback from injury in sports history. I really do. You look at guys like Joe Theismann. Joe Theismann is a great comparison. Not only the same team, he suffered the same exact injury. Same exact injury. If you watch The Blind Side or if you know about The Hit, it is tough to watch. And again, if you're squeamish, don't watch it. Just know it was the same injury. But Joe Theismann only needed one surgery. Never had nearly the same amount of complications that Alex Smith had. We're talking 17 surgeries. Almost losing your leg. Kevin Ware, another guy, we saw live in action where the bone protruded through his skin in the NCAA tournament. The year Louisville won the national title, but according to the NCAA, vacated the national title. But, that was brutal. But he did return 8 months later. I think it was worse looking at than actually was in terms of rehab and getting back. 8 months later, he was back. Paul George, same thing with Gordon Hayward. Both had just disgusting leg injuries, but both returned a year later. Now, the one that's close, I think, personally, comparison-wise, Zach Miller, tight end for the Bears, dislocated his kneecap. In the process, tore an artery. Needed emergency surgery just to not lose his leg. Now, he never played after that. But that's really the closest thing I compare to Alex Smith when it comes to having a gruesome injury, having some serious like life and death, having your leg or not complications. To have 17 surgeries, though, 17 on your right leg in 2 years, to me is the greatest sports comeback, even if Alex Smith does not play another down. even if he doesn't play another snap, just to be able to be at practice, get cleared to medically take the field is awesome. I am so happy for Alex Smith to all the work, all the perseverance, all the resilience that he had, because he could have easily packed it up a million different times. Every day for 2 years, he could have packed it up. He's been in the league a while, so he doesn't need the money. He's been very respected throughout the locker room. He really had nothing left to prove. He didn't. He's a father. Again, he's been in the league now for 15 years. He doesn't need football. The Redskins, or the Washington has Kyle Allen, the former quarterback under Ron Rivera. They have Dwayne Haskins, who they drafted. So it's not like he's their guy and they're screwed. They have quarterbacks there. Props to Alex Smith. I congratulate Alex Smith for me, the greatest comeback from injury in sports history. 17 surgeries, almost having a leg amputated, fighting off infection. The hoops he had to jump through in order to get to this point, incredible. Can't be lost, so I congratulate Alex Smith. I am so happy that he's able to get back on the field, get cleared, and at least get that for him. Kind of get back on the horse, per se. Even if he can't play another down, even if he doesn't take another snap again for any football team. Props to you, Alex Smith. What a great, heartwarming story. And a great example of never giving up and persevering through the worst of adversity. So I want to end the show on a positive note. Again, appreciate to Lauren and Cody for calling in. Congratulations again, one last time to Lauren. Third place champion in 2020 Republicans. We will crown first place on Thursday. Joe Pidell, Sarah Chonkali, 1 seed versus 3 seed. I promise you, get your popcorn. If you're on work, maybe mute the call or, take a little short lunch break from 10:20 to 10:30. It's going to be a great battle. Very excited for that on Thursday. We'll do that on Thursday. Appreciate everyone who tuned in and started your week with us here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Tune in later tonight. Down on the Wire, Errol Marks. Great show, 6:30. Always great guests, talking to another college football recruit tonight. So we'll get his thoughts on what the hell is going on. We'll see if Justin Fields' petition gets any traction within the Big Ten and the conference. I said the players should be allowed to decide for themselves whether they want to play or not and assume the risk. We'll see what happens. But again, appreciate everyone tuning in. A lot of fun today. Good to be back. And we'll talk to you on Thursday right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.